It'd be funny if we started just talking about the women's bracket and pay no attention to the men's. Be like, God, South Carolina, Iowa, USC, and Texas lock up top seeds. Thanks for joining us here on the Slobberknocker Sports Podcast. We got a real doozy. Iowa, the number 2 overall seed. Caitlin Clark. That's what we show up here for, folks.
That's the
no men's sports here. Nothing but
that's the most you've ever talked about women's sports, to be honest.
And it was a parody. Okay. Please.
Well, the people might not know that.
Please.
I'm fired up here for this. We've got brackets, we've got picks, we got Final Four predictions. Let's talk a little Selection Sunday, who got left out, who got in, seeding, all those type of things. I'm going to start with my rant on what I've been maintaining the entire season, well, at least the last month. Indiana State left out, third team out. They are the highest ranked team to ever be left out of the tournament. They are number 29 in the net ranking. Did not get in. Absolutely disgusting.
Well, you're 100% right, but we can just start also by saying, I guess the net rankings worked for the first, how long they had? 3 years? And then they just
5 years.
Whatever.
They just tournament.
Threw them all out the fucking window.
Completely threw them out the window.
Completely. I mean, you have a Virginia team that's fucking in over Oklahoma, which obviously we had a little fun dinner side bet on Oklahoma at St. John's. I thought St. John's would get in over Oklahoma. St. John's isn't even on the page, but I think...
Which is kind of wild.
Yeah, well, I think Lenardi had him there, and he does this full-time, so I can admit that I'm wrong and don't have them. I
hate Joe Lenardi.
He's usually, like he says, we might have a few wrong... I mean, he's usually fairly spot on, like I said, when you do this every day of your life. But I will say, I just don't understand... because there's been a big emphasis on the net rankings the last 5 years. And then you get here this time and you have Indiana State, they're in the top 30, right?
They're 29.
And even I was reading last night in the New York Post, because we were talking about St. John's, they finished at 32.
Right.
And that's where they were before they lost to UConn. Anyway, moved back to 32. And the New York Post article said it would take history to keep St. John's out of the tournament.
And they did it to both St. John's and Indiana State.
Yeah.
33 was the worst, or the best ever ranking to get left out before this tournament, for 4 tournaments of the net rankings. I mean, look, we both know who got in that didn't deserve it, and that's the one team that Joe Lenardi got wrong. I said it, that he usually gets one wrong, and the one that he got wrong was Virginia. He had Virginia out and he had Oklahoma in, and regardless,
net 54 ranking on Virginia.
Yes, and Oklahoma's 46 or 48, 46,
and then Seton Hall right behind Oklahoma is 67, and St. John's was 32. For the life of me, and like I said, hand up, I was definitely wrong there. It just doesn't, you have kind of common ground with these net rankings here. Like if you're gonna, I'm somewhat, but I'm just saying, how could you not have someone whose net's ranking is 32, and you can make the argument that Oklahoma's resume is better, probably was, and then you have Indiana State at 29 behind Seton Hall.
It's ridiculous.
Which is even crazier. I mean, if they had Seton Hall on this last line where Pittsburgh is, if you show the graphic there, as the last 4 or the first 4 out, the 4th team. I guess I kind of get it, but I just don't understand how you would have Indiana State behind Seton Hall. Because I guess it's the one win against UConn. When they caught UConn on an off day, they could play that game.
Didn't even play.
Yeah, they could play that game another 100 times, and UConn would win at 99. It's just so.
Well, they clearly basically just said, when the net rankings are favorable to what we want to do, then we will use them as our, falling back plan. They deserve to be in. Look at their net ranking. But when it didn't fit what the mold was, of what they wanted, which is to have a 4th ACC team in Virginia, who's 54th in the net.
That's what they did.
Nobody believed they deserved to be in. Joe Lenardi didn't have them in. They lost in terrible fashion to NC State, and it was the most Virginia loss I've ever seen. Up by 5, shooting intentional foul free throws with 1:10 to go, having the ball, and somehow found a way to lose to NC State, which, by the way, oddly enough, was probably the reason that Oklahoma got in or got left out because, or whoever the last team would have been, they have Oklahoma, because had NC State lost that game, NC State doesn't win that tournament, and then whoever wins that tournament is either is already going to get
already have a spot,
bid, so
regardless.
That would open up an additional spot. Obviously, we had a lot of bid stealers, so it kind of sucked. Like, for example, we had UAB and Temple playing for the American title today, where FAU got upset by 11 seeded in 5 and 13 in conference Temple. So that stole a bid. Colorado played their way in and then lost to Oregon on the last night, which put Oregon in. So the way the Pac-12 tournament played out, it looked at the beginning like, man, if Oregon and Colorado both lose early, then and Arizona wins the tournament, neither of those teams would have got in. Both of them stole a bid, specifically Oregon, who got an auto bid. We had a couple of just kind of unfortunate things, like the A10, all top 4 seeds got knocked out. Another team, I didn't understand why they were ranked so highly. And this is, again, here we go. Why is Dayton in the tournament over Indiana State? Well, their net ranking is 22. So they used that for Dayton. Dayton got a 7 seed. Dayton was in easily, despite losing in the quarterfinals in their conference tournament, finishing 3rd in the regular season. They didn't even finish in the top 2. Richmond and Loyola Chicago tied for that championship in the regular season in the A10. And yet, they are a 7 seed, and Indiana State is left out.
I guess that
Once
shows
again,
you,
makes no sense.
I guess it's, goes to show you what they thought about the A10, because they have Dayton as a 7 and Duquesne, who didn't sniff the championship, just had a good tournament. They have them as an 11 seed.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I definitely thought, they're A10 champions. So I thought they would be on the 13 line. I think that's probably what makes the most sense, not an 11 seed, but I guess since they thought highly of the A10, they put them there. And, I didn't think Dayton would be a 7. That's very favorable to them. I thought they'd be in the 8-9 matchup.
At least.
Yeah.
I thought they could even be. I saw that they had that last 4 teams, Dayton, Nevada, Arizona, Long Beach State, were the last 4 teams announced. Looking at that, I was thinking, I forgot about Nevada, but I was thinking, man, Dayton's got to be the 10 here, right? And they ended up getting the 7. So, again, the only consistent thing I will give them is they don't take the conference tournaments into account all that much, which, again, to me is inherently contradictory to what the system is. If we're going to have conference tournaments decide
these little teams, mid-majors,
right, then we're just going to disregard the games for the NCAA tournament. Like, speaking of seeding, we can talk about that. Iowa State was the second best team in the best conference in the country. They were the clear second best team. There was no one close to them after that. There was a big drop-off, in my opinion, after Iowa State in the Big 12. They go out and not only win the Big 12 tournament, they win every single game by double digits, and they beat Houston by 30, who had a chance to be the number 1 overall seed going into that championship game. If Houston wins that Big 12 championship, they're the number 1 overall seed.
Yeah.
And they beat them by 30, and they get the 4th 2 seed and are in UConn's bracket. That's crazy. People were discussing whether they should be a 1 seed as that last 1 seed. And then North Carolina, who gets beat last night by 10 by non-tournament team NC State, gets that last 1 seed. You don't take into account that Tennessee won their regular season title in the second best conference in the country.
If you just take conferences out of it and you just looked strictly at who the teams played on their schedule and the metrics behind it, Iowa State was never going to be, but they should have been, in my opinion, the 4th 1 seed.
Oh, I agree with that.
They're way better. I mean, their quality with all their wins, the quality of competition is infinitely better than North Carolina. It's not even close. But you knew the committee, they like to have, one of each conference in there. And I think that's ultimately why Virginia ended up getting in the tournament too, because they wanted 4 ACC teams. Anyway,
that's the worst.
Indiana State got screwed.
They did.
I wanted them to be in, and I think the country as a whole would have much rather had Indiana State, fun story, good mid-major in there instead of boring ass Virginia. But here we are.
Speaking of that, like, look at what Drake is. Drake's a 10 seed out of the Missouri Valley. So they obviously thought somewhat highly of that conference.
No, for sure. Yeah.
So why are they so punished for that? I know the reason. It's because they lost to Illinois State at home. That was a quad 4 loss. If you take out that loss, I think they're in. I think that's what left them out. I think, FAU lost to Temple yesterday.
And they're still an 8 seed.
They're an 8 seed. So you pick and choose what you're looking at, which is what frustrates with me. You look at the entirety of it. The only thing I have an issue with in terms of who got in and who didn't get in is I believe Indiana State deserved to be in. I believe Virginia deserved to be out. Besides that, I have no problem with the rest of these teams getting in. Colorado which I don't understand, is somehow 25 in the net. That baffles me.
Yeah, we were talking about how that was possible last night.
They play nobody. They have no good wins, but they are somehow 25 in the net, and they get in. But I didn't like that Colorado State was the last team in. That's kind of absurd to me. That basically tells us that New Mexico would not have gotten in had they lost yesterday to San Diego State. God bless the Lobos and the Mexican Wolves for getting in for me, because I needed that for my parlay with them and Iowa State. So thank you, the Lobos. The Lobos are my team. I'm riding with the Lobos. Looking at a few other of these seeds, McNeese gets in as a 12. They're a dangerous 12. We'll talk about the games in a second. Some of these mid-majors that got
one last seeded. Thing going back to Virginia, and this is true. I mean, like, I typically, looking at all the college basketball stuff, I prefer KenPom. I really do think sometimes at the very top, like they like Houston. They're partial to Houston, right? But really, when you look at this compared to the net rankings where they have these teams, I think you would agree we typically are on a wavelength of, similar wavelength of where these teams should be.
No, I agree.
You know what Virginia is in KenPom?
Had to be in the 60s, right?
69.
Yeah, it's crazy.
69.
It's crazy. What was Indiana State and KenPom? Had to be in the 40s, probably. I would assume they're in the 40s. I do agree. KenPom is much more accurate than the net rankings.
Indiana State's 45.
There you go. The only reason we look at the net rankings is because we assume that the committee is going to look at it.
And they did nothing.
And they didn't. Yeah. So they're irrelevant at this point.
Yeah, I mean,
why not use KenPom then?
I just I agree. Like, they have New Mexico as 23 in KenPom, and I actually I think New Mexico probably is around the 23rd best team in the country.
Right. They are.
I think they're right there. I mean, it's just so they always. To me, it's always a better tool to look at, but I guess, the committee, it just seems like I just don't know how you screw Indiana State, you put Virginia in, or you screw even, Oklahoma. I mean, call it what it is. I don't think St. John's, KenPom has them at 25, which I think is high. I'd put them more like in the 30 range. Villanova's 35.
Right.
I'd put them near that as far as how good the team actually is. But yeah, anyway.
There's another
crazy
team that didn't even get on the last
Wake Forest, 31.
Another team right there. Didn't get on the last four in.
I mean, that's see, this goes back to our thing. Dayton, 32. That's like where I'd have Dayton.
Right.
I mean,
and they're 22 in the net.
It's so much more accurate than anybody else that does anything. I mean, there's a few in here that you disagree with a little bit, but see now, the net rankings, I don't know where they are. Obviously, they dropped a little bit, but KenPom has Alabama now down to 13. I mean, and they've looked terrible. More accurate.
I would actually probably rate them even lower.
I would
and you look at KenPom right here too. Okay, you've got Colorado State, who was the last team in. They're 38. Below them, Boise State, who was the first team of that group of last four in. You have Florida Atlantic, who's an 8 seed. Washington State, 7 seed. A&M, 9 seed. Northwestern, 9 seed. Utah State, 8 seed. South Carolina, 6 seed. Drake won their conference. But all those teams right there did not win their conference tournaments. They're all in the tournament, and you have Colorado State as the last team in playing a play-in game, which was about as baffling to me as Indiana State getting left out. Really, I saw Colorado State there, and I couldn't believe they were in the last four in, let alone the very last team that they put in the tournament. I thought that they were a lock for sure going into the tournament, Mountain West tournament, which wasn't true. They had to win that game, that first game.
Yeah, I mean,
they beat Nevada.
They have some quality. They certainly have some quality. When they clearly didn't think as much as the Mountain West as other people did, which is
I
fine.
Understand but I would have honestly said, and I know they performed better than Colorado State in conference, not out of conference. I thought Nevada was the worst team of the bunch in the Mountain West. I don't think Nevada has a shot to win their game. I think Dayton will beat the living crap out of them. But not that I even like Dayton. I just don't think Nevada's very good.
Yeah, it's funny because always looking at it, I thought probably San Diego State is, pretty good defensively. I know they go to that one guy who, Ledee or whatever his name is.
Ledee.
And he shot 100 free throws against New Mexico in that in the conference championship game. But then they have New Mexico. So they have San Diego State, as far as Mountain West, 21. New Mexico, 23, which I agree with. I think New Mexico is maybe better than San Diego State.
When they're playing at their peak, I think they're better.
And then you have all the rest of them, like 36 is Nevada, 38 is Colorado State, 39 is Boise State.
Yeah.
I would put Colorado State a little bit above it, but Colorado State has had some bad games. I was 10 games, so
no, they did. They've had some, but they had one. Their worst loss is Wyoming, at Wyoming on the road. It was, I believe, a quad 2 loss because it's on the road, and they led by 11 with 45 seconds to go. It was a fluke. So you can't ignore it. But that's probably why they were the last team in. I actually think Boise is the second worst team that got in, which is have them in the last 4, and I liked, actually. I didn't think they deserved to be any better than that.
Yeah, I think Boise's the worst team into that bunch in the Mountain West.
They just are not that great. They're very, very inconsistent. Do you think
before
we go into the bracket, and we'll go game by game in the first round, and we'll talk about the regions and kind of who we like to come out, do you think that the Mountain West is going to do well in the tournament? Because in the past, I believe 7 years, San Diego State is the only team with a tournament win. Obviously, they had the Cinderella run last year, but we talked about this together when we were watching the games a few days ago, and I mentioned this. They very well could have lost in the first round to College of Charleston last year. And if that happens, the Mountain West is like 0-21 in their last 6 years in the conference or in the NCAA tournament. So do you think the Mountain West this year is as good as people have been saying? Do you think they're going to have success looking at some of these matchups?
It looks like, just depending on the matchups, I guess. I do think Colorado State will beat Virginia, but I do think Boise State will lose to Colorado. That would be my guess on those two. I think both Colorado schools win those. I do think we're going to get there, but I think New Mexico is going to beat Clemson.
Yeah, I like New Mexico a lot.
Weirdly enough, and maybe it's just because I have no faith in San Diego State, and I think they're going to go in a little overconfident in that game against UAB, and they could end up blowing that one. I would expect them to win, but I wouldn't be so sure.
It's going to be
the winner of Boise
game.
State, Colorado plays Florida. I think Florida will beat either one of those teams.
Florida lost their big man, broke his huge loss.
I saw that.
Fractured his leg.
Is he like their leading scorer? Or
no,
what?
But he's very, very key to what they do. Their backup big man's a big drop off. That sucks because I really thought Florida, before he got hurt in that game was tied and they lost by 20. So without him, that's a big loss. I was going to have Florida as like a dark horse to get deep in the tournament. I can't do that anymore. They looked really good in the SEC tournament.
Yeah, in reality, the only team I can see going to the Sweet 16 out of these teams is probably New Mexico.
Yeah, I agree with
I
that.
could see him beating Clemson, and then, if Baylor has an off shooting day, maybe beating
Baylor. You
don't
think San Diego State could beat Auburn? That would be the other one.
That would be it'd be a weird matchup for Auburn. But
you basically have a team that does what you do, but does it better is a problem.
Yeah, I don't know. Auburn, I wouldn't be too surprised if Yale beat Auburn.
Dude,
it just seems like there's just so many, it's March, but anything can happen. But it's just, there's a lot of matchups, and it's probably bad because it's like I'm looking at all these matchups going, oh, man, I think there's going to be upsets all over the board. This year, it'll probably be straight chalk all the way down. Yeah.
All chalk all the way down.
Yeah, whatever you think there's.
Well, I was saying that. What's the guy's name? Seth Davis was talking on the show, and is that his name, Seth Davis?
Yeah.
Every single time he does this, like we're watching the show, and he picks like, I'll tell you what right now, Greg, I'm going to have Morehead State beating Illinois. I'm going to have
he was doing that.
McNeese beating Gonzaga. Samford's going to beat Kansas. Like, he picked every one that I thought in my head that has a good shot to happen.
Yeah.
And I was like, well, this is not going to go well.
That means
every kiss of death.
Yeah,
here.
it's like everybody that, knows basketball a little bit is kind of thinking all those things right now. And usually when that's the case,
it doesn't go well.
It's funny because obviously you've had great success in our bracket challenge, and obviously you are pretty good at obviously picking the games, but it's all typically about always kind of calling the winner.
Right.
And so it's funny because a lot of times we've played in these bracket challenges, and I swear that when we used to play in the Max one they hosted, a girl would win half the time.
I knew you were going to say that.
Yeah, well, it's true because it's there's numbers by the teams. It's like, okay, this team's supposed to win. So, like, they're picking, but you want to pick some upsets.
Right.
And so, like, and you tell them that, hey, the 12s beat the 5s 45% of the time. And it's really not. It's like, okay, well, I know that Houston's pretty good at basketball. They're number one, and you pick them to win. And, if basically someone that watches zero college basketball, if a 1 seed wins the whole thing, it's like a 50-50 chance of them winning the bracket.
I was going to say the same thing. It's like the years that the teams who are favored, if one of those top 2 or 3 teams wins, that's the year where you're like, wow, this person has no idea what they're doing and they won. That's why I do always tend to pick, I don't know if I'm going to do it this year, but I do always tend to pick teams that a lot of people won't pick. I picked UConn the year Kimball was there and the year Napier was there, which is why I won those year. I had Virginia the year after they got bounced in the first round where no one picked them. I had Virginia that year and won it, but I agree. It's like you get these teams like, because they're, as long as they know, okay, don't really pick a 16 or a 15 to win, and just like let them pick the rest of the way, just looking at the number ranking, and you probably have a better chance of just guessing on a lot of these. It really is. Last year we were sitting in the first round, and I think we were sitting there like, man, we watch more basketball than anyone else in the bracket challenge, and we're like sitting second to last and last in the challenge.
That's what happens. I made an argument with a buddy one time, and he was like, so you're telling me you're at a disadvantage watching basketball going into March Madness? I said, a little, weirdly enough, almost yes, because it's like,
years, yes.
Yeah, dude, last year, San Diego State played in the national championship game, and Florida Atlantic got there.
Yeah.
And Fairleigh Dickinson beat Purdue.
Yes.
I mean, so it's like,
and Princeton beat Arizona.
And Princeton won.
And the year before, or 2 years before, St. Peter's was in the Elite Eight.
Yeah.
So
it's just like, sure, you can, you might be good at like picking games or knowing, but over the course of this tournament, wild things are just going to happen.
That's why I would suggest for people picking out their brackets, if you're watching this show, obviously, like, I'm not going to sugarcoat it. I think UConn's the best team in the country. I think it's not even remotely close. I think we all agree, if you're a basketball person, I would say it was actually relatively split going into conference tournaments between Houston, Purdue, and UConn. I think most people who are real basketball people like myself thought UConn. I know you liked UConn, but in general, it's usually not a good idea to pick a 1 seed to win the championship, or a team like, let's say you're watching a lot of these bracket shows that these experts do, and a lot of them are saying Tennessee has a great chance to win it all. I would stay away from those. A, they normally don't win. B, you have no chance to win, especially if you're in a bracket pool with 100 people. You want to pick somebody that no one else is going to pick. If you pick...
Or like, maybe 5 brackets have out of the 100, so you only have to be better than 5.
Right.
You don't have to be better than 30 brackets. Right. Because even if you know what you're doing, the odds of being better than 30 other brackets is really hard. I remember one year I lost our bracket challenge because...
You had a perfect Final Four.
I had a perfect Final Four and a perfect national championship game, and Duke beat Wisconsin, and I lost.
Not only did you lose, you didn't even end up getting a top 5.
Yeah,
because the championships were so many points.
And then, like, on ESPN going into that game, my bracket was 99.99999. It was like in the top 100-something brackets out of the whatever million. And then our bracket challenge, since Duke won and Wisconsin didn't, I didn't get top 3. Yep. That's how much, because you get half the points for calling the winner.
The one thing I liked that I did one year, some people didn't like it. Maybe I liked it because I won the bracket this year, but I did a bracket challenge where essentially, and there's negatives to this too. There's negatives to any way. Most people, and including the way we do it, is just a normal, it's each round equates to the same amount of points. So every round is 320 points. The first round, there's 32 games, so it's 10 points a pick. Second round, 20, and it doubles up to the championship. And so that's normally how you do it. The one year I did it, and you were probably in this was 10 years ago, we had it where if you picked an upset, like, so you get a base amount of points, say 10 points, but if you picked an upset, you got a 10 points per the difference in the seed. So if a 13 beat a 4,
I remember doing that once.
Difference, you got an extra 90 points.
Yeah, I remember that one year doing it.
And I picked Mercer to beat Duke that year, which was like, a huge upset. And I think it was a 3 versus a 14. I got 11 or 110 points for that one. But that I like, because there's negatives, because then you probably it's more of an advantage to just pick a bunch of upsets
the whole time.
But it also makes it more interesting because you get more points for picking some of those games correctly, as opposed to just picking the champion and having to beat people who pick the champion. That's the one thing that sucks.
Yeah, that's always irritating. But
let's pick real quick. I know you mentioned this, the play-in games. We have the first one is Virginia and Colorado State. You said you like Colorado State, correct?
Yeah.
Colorado State's a 2-point favorite right now. It's off the board at Bovada, but that's what they sit right now.
Yeah, I think Colorado State's going to beat them.
You think it's a blowout?
No.
Because that's just
those
not
games
how it plays.
those games typically never play out as blowouts. Like, typically when someone gets 20-point lead, the other team comes back and wins. What was it? Was it Iona and BYU that one year that was just bonkers?
Yes, and I'm not going to disclose the last name because I don't even know it, but my old bookie who I used in That was years ago. That was Iona BYU was like when we were in like high school, our senior year of high school, and Iona was up by 22 at halftime, and BYU came back and beat them. And I remember Craig, when I go in there, he goes, "Oh, you got fucked on that Iona game, didn't you?" And I was like, "Yes, absolutely, I did."
That's funny.
And anyway, but these games are always close. I like Colorado State. The only, I guess, hesitation I have is sometimes those teams, again, this is the tournament. Sometimes the teams who don't deserve to be in think, they end up winning this game and then winning another game. I don't think Virginia is a good tournament team.
Yeah.
I think they've lost in the first round. I believe it's like 4 of the 8 times Tony Bennett's been to the tournament, they have not gotten out of the round of 64. So I don't like them in the tournament.
I'll say it's a dangerous game psychologically because what happened was Virginia thought they were out looking at Lenardi's deal. Colorado State for sure didn't think they were going to be last 4 in.
Yes.
So it's the classic, oh my God, we're in. And Colorado State's thinking, what the fuck are we doing playing Virginia in the first? So that is a dangerous part about it. But I think Colorado State, I know you, I always forget his name, the guard that's really good
Isaiah
there.
Stevens, best point guard in the country.
Stevens really good. I think they'll be ready to go. I think they'll win that game.
But I will say I agree with you on that. What region is that in? I'm looking for it right here. I know Boise.
I don't know what region it is. It's
Boise is in.
It's the Midwest. They're playing the winner. They play winner plays Texas.
I forget they used to be 11 seeds. Now they're 10 seeds. I'll tell you this.
Oh yeah, I thought they were always 11. They changed it.
If Colorado State wins that game, I think they have a good chance to beat Texas. And I'm a Longhorns fan. Rodney Terry is a terrible basketball coach, and I like Max Asmus and I like Dylan DeSue. Max Asmus has won in March before, but Dylan DeSue, shout out Vanderbilt. But I kind of like Colorado State if they're able to win a game. They haven't won a game in the tournament in a long time. They were in as the 6th seed playing Michigan a couple years ago, who won in a play-in game, ironically, and Michigan got down to Colorado State like 20 points in the first half, and Colorado State blew the lead and lost by like double digits. So it's hard to predict. I like Colorado State. They have a very efficient offense. I think they're going to be able to score against Virginia, who doesn't really have a great rim protector. Looking at the next play-in game real quick, Boise State, Colorado. I would agree with you. I would lean Colorado. I think that's both of these are coin flips if we're being honest.
Yeah.
The one thing I would say is if Boise State wins that game, I would 100% fade them. Colorado's athletic enough to play with Florida, especially without their big man. I think Florida probably beats either of these teams, regardless of who gets in, but I would lean to Colorado, just a slight lean. Boise State's weird. If they're shooting the 3-ball well, they have Max Rice, who's the coach's son. He's a little white kid. Kid can shoot the shit out of it. Tyson Dagenart's pretty good. They're big white kids.
He is good.
A lot of white kids on the team.
They're. I just don't.
They don't wow
once you play a. Yeah, I think Florida's a bad matchup for them.
Bad matchup
because and so is Colorado. I think they're too athletic, like you said.
So
I hate to say that. Hurts me to say. With 5 white guys out there on the floor, it's like Hoosiers.
Are you gonna be pulling for Boise State?
Yeah, of course. Of course. Got to pull for Boise State.
Okay, let's look at
Got to do it for the Hoosier boys out there.
Let's look at the East, the Mormon Hoosier boys. Let's look at the East. So, obviously, I don't think either of us are going to have Stetson beating UConn. We're both going to have UConn advancing there relatively easily. Very interesting 8-9 matchup. Florida Atlantic taking on Northwestern. Northwestern lost one of their better players for the season in Ty Berry, which hurts because Ty Berry, I believe, was their second leading scorer. So he is a loss. He's a good shooter, very good player. Northwestern's interesting because in March, you have to have good guards. Northwestern always wins in the first round. I don't know what it is. They beat Boise last year. They were the 10 seed. Boise was the 7, and they beat Boise in the first round. Every year they're in the tournament, I think, man, this team can't score, and there's no way they're going to be able to score against this team, and they do, and they win because they play good defense, they're fundamentally sound, and they have Boo Buie, who is a senior this year, who's been a stud in the tournament every year. Even last year, they damn near beat UCLA in the second round. They almost upset UCLA in the second round, who was the 2 seed in that region. They always are trouble in March. I am actually going to lean Northwestern on this game. Florida Atlantic has been playing horrific basketball as of late. They did not win their regular season this year. They got in based on the fact that they went to the Final Four last year and they played a tough non-conference.
His big dog made a call. Those are his boys.
Vladislav, for Will Fagan out there, Vladislav, his favorite player, Vladislav.
That's Will's favorite
Will
player?
loves Vladislav, the Russian. I think he's Russian. I don't know. That guy.
Eastern European. All
that
right?
guy fucking sucks.
We know that.
We know he's Eastern European.
Give me FAU, an honor of Big Dog not being here. He might come, but his boy, John L. Davis, he might get him over the line. Give me the Owls, and then they're going to lose to UConn by 30.
My dad just texted Bailey. He sent us this in the group chat. He said, we ought to have me steal the show and I do my own segment tomorrow. I picked 3 brackets, so we air whichever one that wins. Oh, he's ousted.
Oh no, Big Dog. Oh, he's gonna be so mad Bailey outed him over here.
He won't. No, he doesn't watch the show.
That's a good point.
He only reads the comments.
Dude, is he? So he's not coming on today?
Oh, you sent it to me again? Here it is. We do it where I pick all the teams, both of them for the bracket one. Then I sneak back in on Friday, pick all the winners. Then Saturday, Friday night, we air it. He's actually an idiot.
No, he wants that to happen.
Well, we should do that just because it'd be actually kind of fucking funny. And I don't think anyone would notice. That would be really... Look, we got a guy with a perfect bracket.
Oh, my God.
He's got a perfect bracket. Oh, by the way, he filled it out by hand. He's got 42 different brackets.
And there's just eraser
waiting.
marks on every single line.
Scratch out.
It's like the guys you play golf with that made a 7, and it's like, oh, at the end of the round, 4. It made a 4 there.
He's the guy who throws the ball out of the sand and throws the sand on
That's brilliant.
On the course.
Big classic, Big Dog.
Okay, so you said you picked FAU?
Yeah, sure. Give me FAU.
No, is that what you said? I didn't hear you.
Yeah, I'll go FAU. That's 8-9s are always coin toss games. I agree with you. Northwestern always seems to find a way to win in the first round, it seems like.
Yeah. San Diego State, UAB, 5-12. Always, interestingly enough, no 5-12 upsets last year. All the 5 seeds won. It was the first time in a long time that happened. We've had years where 3 of the 4-12 seeds have won. Last year we had a time where all 5 seeds
It was all
went.
5 seeds?
And San Diego State was in this exact spot. They were the 5 seed in the very top region with the number 1 overall seed. Alabama was the number 1 overall seed. They won that first game as the 5 seed over Charleston, won the second game. I forget who they played in that second game, and then they beat Alabama in the Sweet 16 to go on to the Elite 8. So, interesting matchup with San Diego State, UAB. UAB did not win their conference, but they won their conference tournament. They did look really, really good in that conference tournament. They beat, I believe, was it South Florida?
They beat the shit out of South. Well, okay. The game was close, but who did they play in the chip? It's Temple.
They beat Temple.
Yeah.
They beat the shit out of Temple.
That's not impressive. I'll take San Diego State, battle tested, got some older kids on the team. I'll take them.
The only thing that I would say about this one is looking at the other 5-12s. All the other 5-12s are extremely enticing. Like they all look like
we're not there yet. We're not there yet, but we're both going to take.
Yeah, but what I'm saying is this is the one that doesn't look enticing, and this feels like the one that is actually going to be an upset somehow. I'm going to lean San Diego State. Ledie's still really good. He's going to be. I mean, we saw how hard it was for San Diego or for New Mexico to stop Ledie inside. They literally tried like 4 different dudes and fouled him 17 times and still could barely stop him. So I will say San Diego State, they are battle tested. Trammell has been here before. He hit the free throws last year against Creighton to send him to the Final Four. Butler hit the game winner in the Final Four to go to the championship game. So they've got some guys who have been in big March games. So I'll lean to them, but not going to be an easy game. UAB has a lot of guys who can really attack the rim well. Yale snuck in the tournament today. They were losing to Brown by 6 with 29 seconds to go and somehow found a way to win the game.
I didn't see it. Yeah, you just texted me, Yale March, and I was like, oh my God, Brown blew a fucking 6-point lead with 20-something seconds.
There was a lot of Brown fans who looked like they were about to swan dive off the Tower of America.
Yeah, I'm sure they were. Well, Will Fagan probably had him winning that. You can beep that. You don't need to throw his last name out there, but our guy Will. Money line, but long shot Lou. God, that's the best fucking story. The Norm McDonald. That's a long shot. He comes in here every Friday, throws $20,000 on the longest shot on the board. Norm McDonald's like, God damn motherfucker. Long shot Lou, baby.
Will had a plus 1750 ticket on DePaul against Villanova in the Big East tournament. And Villanova was about to lose, and they nailed it.
Should have
won. Poor Will.
God love him.
Will definitely have Yale money line in that one. Yeah. I'll take Auburn. They're playing real good.
I think Auburn's going to actually. the more I think about this one, I think Auburn's going to just smoke them. They get up and down. They're way too athletic for Yale. And this isn't – Yale's an okay Ivy League, but we both think Princeton's probably – Princeton just played one real bad game against Brown. Yep. So I even thought Cornell –
Cornell's good too.
I even thought Cornell was actually better than Yale this year in some of the games I watched.
Cornell's more dangerous in this tournament because they can shoot the ball better.
They can score.
Yale has this one lefty kid. I think he's foreign. He is a very high-level shooter, but he's not. They don't have anyone else. And watching that game, like, Brown is not good. They won, I believe they started conference play 1-8 and got in. You have to be top 4 in the Ivy to get in, and they won 7 straight to get there, and then won in the semis.
Oh, they had won 7 straight to get there?
Yes.
Oh, then that 17, the plus 1,700 was actually kind of a lot. I mean, if they won that many to get there, that's interesting.
It is interesting because that's a large number, and they were only...
And you only have to win 2 games.
And they were only 11.5-point underdogs in the first game, so they were 11.5 and 9 or 7.
I guess if you probably parlay those 2 money lines together, that's the number you get.
Yeah, probably so.
Whatever, close to that. Now the next matchup's very
real.
I think BYU. I think BYU got real lucky with that matchup, getting to play Duquesne, and Illinois is pissed, going, "Why the fuck are we playing Morehead State and you're playing Duquesne? Why don't you should order a swap and say no, we'll play them. You can play Morehead State." I think BYU scores way too many points for Duquesne to give them much trouble, but who knows?
I will say this about Duquesne. I told you this. I texted you this. Duquesne makes Virginia offensively look like the Golden State fucking Warriors. They are the worst offensive team I've ever seen. I want to say they started the second half against VCU. They had a 17-point lead. They started the second half against VCU 2 for 21. It was the most ugly display of offense I've ever seen in my entire life. The one thing I will give Duquesne, they're extremely physical. They play really good defense, and they have 2 solid guards who play one-on-one basketball. And in March, for some reason, that tends to work well. I don't know why I'm doing this, but I think Duquesne is going to win this game.
Love it.
I don't know why. I just think BYU, I saw BYU in the Big 12 tournament just look like shit. I think they were on.
They've done that for a few games.
They have.
You could catch them on a bad night.
And Duquesne is so physical, I just think they're going to take BYU out of what they want to do. Now, my one worry is Iowa State's very similar to Duquesne. Better defensively, better offense, better overall, obviously, way better overall. But that was the team that struggled with BYU. Iowa State really struggled. They got beat by 17. It was their worst loss of the season, and then they barely won in a crazy comeback at home against BYU. So I don't know that the matchup is great. I just think BYU in the tournament historically has not been great. You have a physical team who's riding a high. They have good guards, and they play good defense. They could lose by 1,000,000 because if they're not hitting shots and BYU's on early and they get in a hole, this game's over in a hurry. I would watch that game, though, and if Duquesne gets up early and you can get them at even money and they're winning, they're going to win that game. BYU's not going to come back if they're getting out physical and early. Moving to that next matchup you mentioned, fascinating. I mean, I think Morehead State got shafted here by getting the 14 seed. I thought they were a 12 at worst. They are fantastic. They were the 3 seed in their conference, but that was because they had major injuries. They have the player of the year in the conference, does Morehead State, and they're playing Illinois, who is playing their best basketball of the year, if we're being honest, right? They won the Big Ten tournament just now today. They beat Wisconsin, who was the hottest team in the Big Ten. Not that either of us like Wisconsin. Do you think that Morehead State has a shot? They are a very, very good offensive team. I'm not sure what they're ranked overall in KenPom. I don't think it's good.
Letting the threes fly.
They're a huge 3-point team.
Yeah, I don't. No, I mean, I think Illinois, like you said, they're playing good basketball. There's zero doubt about that. Terrence Shannon's been really good. I think Illinois will find a way to win that game. They're just a better team. But if I'm Morehead State, I'm just pissed I'm not like in the 13 line playing Duke or,
This is a terrible. Well,
or playing Kansas, right, who's been banged up, or playing Alabama, right? Like, I mean, Charleston gets to play Alabama.
Dude, I
would much rather play Alabama right now than play Illinois. That's for sure.
Did you watch the selection show live?
No, I had it on, but
you
with
weren't paying
family,
attention.
just in the background with the teams coming up.
Did you? So when they showed Illinois has got their hats on. They just won the Big Ten Conference. They got the little backwards hat with the net tied to it, and they're all cheering. They get their 3 seed, and they saw Morehead State. They got quiet real quick because people know that team is actually really good. I believe it's Riley Minix. He is their best player. He averages 21 a game. He's the 23rd leading scorer in the country. He is phenomenal. Had in their conference tournaments, in the semifinals, he scored 26. In the championship, he scored 26. He's fantastic. And then they have shooters around him. They're athletic. The problem with them is they play absolutely no defense. They're outside the top 125 defensively in KenPom. So
they're just going to have to make more shots than Illinois.
Now, Illinois is traditional. Yeah, you're right.
That's all you got to do.
Illinois has not had a ton of success in the tournament under Brad Underwood. They have lost early. They damn near lost to Chattanooga in the first round as a 5 seed a couple years ago. They don't tend to make deep runs. I do think this is the best Illinois team that we've seen. I am going to take Illinois. I am going to bet Morehead State plus 13.5. The second I can get it on Bovada, it's off the board right now. So I'll take Illinois to win the game, Morehead State to cover. That's going to be a very high scoring game. Interested to see what the total is there because I think Illinois is going to score at will. Next matchup, very, very interesting again, and we'll get to our college basketball game picks at the very end.
Total's 150. I have it up on ESPN.
150 for Illinois and Morehead State?
Yeah.
I can tell you I'm taking over in that. There's going to be 100. I know taking overs in first-round games is not a good way to go, but Illinois has been an over machine.
Worse than death.
Yeah. Illinois has been an over team, and the way Morehead State defends, I'm definitely going over in that game. Washington State taking on Drake in the next one. Very even matchup. I don't know what the line is on that. Did you see it? I would assume Drake.
It was Washington State by 1, I think.
There you go.
Last time I clicked on it.
I would assume it's a pick 'em or
Washington State by 1.5. Okay, but Drake's already minus 120 on that. That game's going to go off as a pick.
It is going to be a pick.
I think Drake may go off as a 1-point favorite. I don't think people are sold on the Pac-12. I know Washington State.
I like Washington State.
Yeah, I know you like them. I know they beat Arizona, right?
Yeah, twice.
I just like the senior that's the coach's son on that team. The little Aussie guard that plays harder than anybody on the court.
Yeah.
Drake's that big man.
Brody. His last name is Brody. Brody.
I think Drake's gonna win that game. I would pick them to maybe go a little bit further and make some noise, but unfortunately the next matchup they're catching Iowa State, and I don't think they're gonna win that.
Yeah, Tucker DeVries is the kid you're talking about who's the coach's son. He's the 6th leading scorer in the country at just under 22 a game, also averages 7 rebounds and 4 assists. Fantastic shooter. We saw him really struggle in that semifinal against Bradley, but he was phenomenal in the championship against Indiana State. Drake's been here before, right? We have seen them. They were in the tournament last year. Probably should have won against Miami. I guess I'll take Drake. I don't like picking against Washington State. They play really good defense. I'll take Drake, but it's going to be a real tough. That's going to be a coin flip game, I think.
Oh, I think so. And that's why the line's 1, right?
Yeah,
I think so. I think so too. I just go anytime you got the senior coach's sons, like what did McDermott do in Creighton when he was a senior? Did they make a run or they get bounced?
They lost,
early?
I believe, in the Sweet 16.
Okay, so they got a couple wins.
Yeah, no, it was a tough matchup, but yes, they were pretty good. I mean, yeah, tournament experience. You got a coach's son. I would guess that coach is going to go. DeVries is going to go somewhere else after this year now that his son is gone.
Yeah, probably
he's going to get a better job getting the tournament twice in a row. Obviously, I don't think you're going to pick South Dakota State here. The Jackrabbits.
No, Iowa State. Long live the Jackrabbits, but no.
Okay.
Iowa State.
Do you think, real quick, finishing the East, we're not going to pick every game all the way through, but I'll say, for me, I like UConn to get through the top part of the region. I think they'll probably meet Auburn in the Sweet 16 and beat Auburn. I see them getting to the Elite 8. Then you look at the bottom of the region. It's really hard for me to pick away from the favorites in this region because they're so good. I'll just say it's going to be the one. This will be the region where it's UConn 1 playing 4 Auburn, and it's 3 Illinois playing 2 Iowa State. And I think it'll be Iowa State and UConn in the Elite 8, and I think UConn will win the region. But if there was one dark horse to make a run here to somehow upset somebody and get through, I guess I would probably say...
I know you pick them in the first round, but I almost feel like it has to be BYU.
Is what I was going to say.
Because they could beat Illinois, and they've already beaten Iowa State.
They're the only one. I don't think it's going to be them, but they're the dark horse.
I don't think anybody's getting out of there but UConn, so that's the deal. Yeah.
Tough
That's the toughest region.
Going to get FAU or Northwestern, then you're going to have to probably get Auburn, and then you're going to have to get either Illinois.
You want to do South next or West?
Whichever one you want to do. I guess we'll do South because that's the number 2 overall seed, right? So going to the right up top, Houston's going to take care of Longwood pretty easily. Interested to see what that number is, the way Houston played that last game. But so we've got Houston advancing, obviously, and then we've got my Cornhuskers of Nebraska. You were right. I was hoping they would be a 7 or a 10 so that they would dodge the 1 seed.
Would have been better.
Would have been much better, but they get the 8. Unfortunately, they do get one of the hotter teams in the country in A&M. A&M got smacked in the tournament last year. Did a very similar thing. Got deep in the SEC tournament. Had a really, up and down year this year. They lost last year by 20-plus points to Penn State in the 7-10 matchup. Now they're in the 8-9. They have great guards, though, who have been to an NCAA tournament, who have been there for a long time, senior guards in Tyrese Radford and Wade Taylor IV. So who do you like in this one? My Cornhuskers going to get it done or the Aggies?
Man, I actually think Nebraska's a better team, but I think that the way A&M just got shellacked in the tournament last year, and they have those 2 senior guards, and I like Buzz Williams, I'm going to pick the Aggies. I really think it's a coin flip game. Nebraska, maybe a 60-40, but I just think A&M finds a way to win the game just because they were so bad in the game last year.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know if they're going to come out with a nervous energy. What is the line's 1.5. Right. I mean, that's what.
Who was favored? A&M?
Nebraska by 1.5.
Oh, I'm actually surprised Nebraska's favored. No, that sounds right. I'm just surprised. I thought A&M might be favored by a few points.
Weird. It says, anyway, it can't be right yet. 1.5.
1.5.
Yeah.
I like my Cornhuskers in this one. I hate this matchup because I actually thought A&M had a chance to make a run if they got a good little matchup. Yeah. This is the worst possible. I think they would have probably, obviously, if you ask Buzz Williams, would you rather be in the tournament or playing a play-in game? He would rather be in the tournament.
Yeah.
But if you were in that play-in game as the 10 seed, it's going to be a much easier road if you did get in. If you're the 10 seed, you get a 7, and then you're going to get either, who would it have been, Marquette in the second round as opposed to Houston. So big difference.
Which you would definitely rather have. But the one thing I will say is, obviously, we don't necessarily think either of these teams are going to go through Houston, but A&M's matchup-wise, like the hard-nosed defense, the way they play, I think that they have a much, much better chance matched up against Houston than they do even like Purdue or North Carolina, just because of the style that they play. Because that game, if they get a game that's officiated where it's like nothing's being called and it's just a nasty game, and you have Radford and
Wade Taylor.
Wade Taylor.
Well, I completely agree.
I think that to me. Now, I don't know if they're going to beat Nebraska, right? And you obviously would rather play Marquette in the second round. Yeah. But if you are playing a 1 seed for them, I think matchup-wise, especially after Houston just got destroyed by Iowa State, their confidence has got to be at least a little, faltered a bit. So,
and they lost Tugler for the year, their freshman big man, but they lost him a month ago, and they were fully healthy. I know Juwan Roberts was battling a leg injury, but he played in that game. They got killed at full strength by Iowa State. I like the Cornhuskers to go through, but I agree with you there. I think A&M is going to be an interesting matchup for Houston because they rebound offensively as well as anyone except for Houston in the country. So going to kind of negate Houston's advantage there, I think. Moving on, this is my team that I picked. I've been on them all year. Mm-hmm. I love the Dukes. We have two, the Duquesne Dukes and the James Madison Dukes both in the tournament, but I like James Madison in this matchup. I hate that Seth Davis picked this team to go to the Sweet 16 because I think I'm going to do the same thing. I truly do. Looking at the matchup, I think Vermont could very well beat Duke, and even if they don't, I think James Madison will have a chance to beat Duke. I think this is a really good draw for James Madison. They're the lone team that I think of those mid-majors who got in on their auto bids from the tournament wins. I think this is the best path to a Sweet 16 of any mid-major. You have a Wisconsin team that both of us feel is extremely overrated. If it weren't for this Big Ten tournament run, I legitimately think they might have been a 7 seed. I think they're probably closer to a 7 seed from what I've seen with my two eyes, eye test wise. I don't think Wisconsin's very good. They're very inconsistent. James Madison has a ton of seniors, which is not normal in this day and age.
Yep.
They have a ton of guys who can shoot it. They're explosive. They're athletic. They press you the whole game. And they've got a really good coach who's going to get a big G1 job soon. So they have the makeup of a giant killer. I've said it all year. They play to their competition. They beat Michigan State in East Lansing the first game of the season. They've been there. They've done that. I think they're going to win this game, and I think they're going to go to the Sweet 16. Watch out if Houston gets knocked out by, say, A&M or Nebraska, more than likely A&M. Watch out for James Madison to get to an Elite Eight, like have some weird Cinderella run. Don't think that's going to happen. I'll have them losing in the Sweet 16 to Houston, but watch out for that. They're a team. They could lose. Wisconsin could come an on night and beat James Madison and cover the number.
Yeah.
But I like James Madison a lot. They have the makeup of a team like a FAU who could make a deep run and ton of talent there.
I'm going to pick James Madison there. You know a lot more about him than I do. I've only watched him play like twice. I think, Wisconsin's overrated. I've said it all year. And then I'll get out in front of you here, and I'm going to take Vermont over Duke.
Are you really?
Yeah. I don't first of all, I just fucking hate Duke.
I hate Duke, too.
That's part of the reason I like rooting against Duke, and I fucking hate Duke, so I don't want them in my bracket. And I'm going to have them. I think they would lose to either Wisconsin or James Madison the next game, honestly. I think James Madison's going to win that game against Wisconsin. But if they don't, I think Wisconsin could handle Duke anyway. So it's somewhat of a spite pick. And to be honest with you, if there's better 13 seeds than Vermont, in my opinion, I would like if it was Duke versus, let's see who the other, Samford, who I think's better than Vermont.
Yeah.
And I think Charleston's probably better than Vermont.
Yeah.
Like if it's either of those, I'd feel even better about it. But I'll go Catamounts. I like screaming Catamounts too. So.
I love the Catamounts. They gave Marquette all they could handle in the first half last year and just kind of fell apart late. But I'll tell you one thing they can do is shoot the shit out of the ball.
Yeah.
And they're going to score with Duke. That's for sure. Duke's defense is horrific. They have a lot of trouble stopping teams. Kyle Filipowski is incredibly overrated. That said, the only reason I'm taking Duke is because every time since I picked Mercer to beat Duke, and I do the same thing. I spite pick against Duke. I do it against them and Baylor every year. And for some reason, I picked my Gauchos last year over Baylor. But for some reason, I think, at least last year, I was wrong. And it was a similar type game where it was like a tough little matchup. They had Oral Roberts last year. They were only a 5.5 point favorite as a 5-12. And they beat them by 40 or whatever.
What do we think? What do we think the line's going to be on Duke Vermont? I haven't seen. Guess.
I'm going to guess 7.5.
I'm going to guess.
It's between 7.5 and 9.
I'm going to guess 8.
Yeah, I'm going to say 7.5. But I think
11.5. No respect for the Catamounts.
That makes me like Duke a little more.
Yeah,
just because.
Well, because I agree. I mean, if that game's Charleston or that game's
it's a tough matchup.
If it's Charleston or it's
McNeese.
Samford, it's 7 probably. Right? Yeah.
Right.
Oh shit! If it's McNeese
it's probably
might be
5.5.
5, yeah.
So I agree. I'm going to take Duke to win it, but I'm going to have Duke losing in my round of 32 to James Madison. So I'm kind of similar to you. I don't think Duke's going far here. If Wisconsin beats James Madison and there's not an upset and Duke gets through Vermont, I do think Duke would beat Wisconsin because I'm lower on Wisconsin than I am on Duke.
Yeah.
But I agree with you there. I'm not a fan of the Blue Devils. They really struggled to end the season. Next one, we've got your Texas Tech Red Raiders, who I got a lot of shit from on Twitter.
Yeah, you told me that.
Tweeting
NC
out
State.
About them throwing bottles at players, but they got NC State who won the ACC.
I mean, I think. Let's see who the other 11s are.
The other 11,
New Mexico, Oregon. I would say that obviously
Duquesne.
You'd rather play Duquesne. But I think I'd rather play NC State than the others. And this matchup for Texas Tech, in my opinion, this bottom half is actually a really doable draw for them.
Favorable
because their styles, with Kentucky, I just, I think they're going to beat NC State. And obviously I'm going to take Kentucky to beat Oakland. But you know as well as I do, on any given night, Kentucky can beat fucking anybody, or they could lose to anybody. I mean, if Shepard's having a bad night, and what is Dillingham? I mean, it's just they're a very streaky team,
and
they're one of my picks in the deal because they literally could just run the gauntlet here and just go to the Final Four.
They're talented enough to win and beat UConn. Yeah,
if they end up playing, Houston, that game to me it could go either way. I just think that Kentucky can, score it with anybody. And then Texas Tech has obviously Marquette on the bottom of the bracket. Marquette's been very pedestrian lately.
Right.
I'm sure Koleck's going to come back, and that's going to help, right? But they say he's coming back.
They say he'll be back for the NCAA
tournament. Knows? Who knows? That's weird.
I will say I want to get into that too. I agree with you. I like Tech here over NC State. The Wolfpack made a heck of a run to get here, but in all honesty, if you watch the games, they should have lost in the semifinal. Was it the quarterfinals? I think it was to
Virginia.
No, it was the semifinals. It was the semifinals to Virginia. They were down by 5, and they intentionally fouled with 1:10 to go. I think I referenced it earlier on the show. They 100% should have lost that game. If you go look at ESPN analytics, they were a 99.9% chance to lose. So they shouldn't be here, really, in all honesty. They were not going to get in that large bid. They should have lost that game. The only team in the fucking world who could blow that game is Virginia, and they were luckily playing them, and that's what happened.
Yeah.
So they ended up, and not only was it Virginia collapsing, but Virginia didn't foul when they were up by 3 on the last possession, and then this kid, he banked in a 3, and it might have gone around the rim after the bank 4 times on a certain. It was just an absolute God-given miracle.
Fluke, yep.
So I like Tech in that one. Also, big boy, DJ Burns. Your boy.
That guy is fucking awesome, dude.
DJ Burns.
He was dropping dimes yesterday, too. He could not breathe getting up and down the court. It was like he'd stand there and rebound, and I was just thinking to myself, dude, big fella, just stay on the other end and just cherry pick because someone's got to kind of honor you. And that's what the kid did at Stony Point. Remember? For the kid that was really good, going to Villanova. It's like, look, kid ran out of gas a few times. He carries the team, and he's like, it's a transition the other way. He just calls for the ball and lays the ball. We saw him actually score 6 points through 3 games doing that. It's like, and most of those high school kids just run down and fire up a 3 anyway. But yeah, a couple times he got back and I'm like, dude, you'd have been much better off just staying down there because he was not moving. He was not getting the offensive glass. There was a couple times he was just praying for the TV timeout, for the love of God, someone foul somebody. But dude, he was, even when he was gassed, he was giving little feathery bounce passes for dunks. And that guy, watch out, Texas Tech. Burns might be coming for you.
DJ Burns,
DJ Burns.
Yeah, that guy is...
He might, he also looks like the kind of guy that probably, obviously not going to play professional basketball, may have a European career, but I could see him going, full-blown UFC heavyweight after college basketball. Getting in the octagon and Dana White signing him, coming for the contender series. 5 years from now, we're going to be like, you remember this guy who played basketball at NC State? He's throwing haymakers out there like Kimbo Slice. That'd be awesome.
Oh my gosh, that's pretty funny. Do they have an ultra heavyweight division? Because he would qualify for
that. I think heavyweight. Oh, I think now, I can't remember if Bailey might know this. In heavyweight UFC, do you have to be under 280 now, or is it just, can you be as heavy as you want? It's heavy as you want. Yeah. Yeah.
How heavy do you think DJ Burns is? How much does he weigh?
Dude, who knows? Well over. It always is funny because Jonathan was talking about it. It's they always list these guys 270, 260.
Yeah, what do you think he's listed at?
Fat guys that are 6'10", or he's maybe 6'8" or whatever.
Yeah,
he's probably listed at 270.
He's 275.
Is that what it lists him at?
He's 320 at least.
At least. Yeah, dude, when you're that tall and you're carrying that much weight, it's at least big. Yeah.
He's bigger than Zion, who was close to 300.
Way bigger.
Yeah.
Zion was for sure, to start the basketball season this year, Zion was at least 310. I think they said that, I think the agreement was he had to come back at 285 and he won he was over 300, I think.
It was.
But I will say this. Everybody likes to talk shit about him being a fat ass, and I get it. He plays in the NBA, and they want to try to keep him in shape. They threw a ball into him the other night. I don't know if you saw it.
I did.
He caught it 3/4 and went, 3.2 seconds and laid it in. I'm like, he's moving pretty fucking quick for 320 pounds, and he might be. That guy,
he is an
they should have made, obviously he's doing just fine for himself in the NBA, but imagine that guy lined up at defensive end. It would just be fucking terrifying.
There was a kid they talked about, I forget what team he was on for, it was the kid I was telling you was the Tiger, the boxer. His son played for that team against, I think it was Stony Point? Not Stony
Brook.
Stony Brook, yeah. they were saying after he finishes his career at Stony Brook, he's going to go try to play professional football. And I don't think he's ever played football before, and he probably could do it.
That would be a good idea for Burns, too.
It's the old argument, like, everybody thinks they can play, football players can play basketball, and basketball players think they can play football. I'll tell you what, there's not a single, well, I won't say not a single. There are very, very few football players who could play in the NBA. There are a lot of NBA players who could play in the NFL because it's just about who's a great athlete.
Oh, yeah, if they're tough enough, right?
Right.
Most of them are fucking pussies. That's why they play basketball.
Right. No, I'm saying physically.
Yeah, I know.
Physically.
No, for sure.
Yes. Okay. We picked that one. I agree. Kentucky's going to beat Oakland. I don't think that's going to be remotely
I think
close.
we both think Florida's going to beat. Well, who's Florida playing in that one? Colorado. Could be Colorado.
I'll take Florida still, even with the injury. I thought Florida was a team, like in this draw, if Florida was healthy, I would probably have them beating Marquette. But with them not being healthy, now Marquette, and this is the thing, we can talk about this real quick as we're going through to who's going to come out of the South, right? I think we both pick Florida. We're both going to pick Marquette. If Tyler Kolek comes back, I do think Marquette has a chance to come out of this region, only if Houston gets upset. I don't think they could beat Houston because my thing on Marquette all year has been this. They are like the 9th or 10th best team in the country. They are never going to beat anybody who is better than that. Them. Yeah. They'll beat anyone worse when healthy. If they're not playing somebody below them, they're never beating UConn. They're never beating Houston. They're never beating North Carolina. They're never beating Iowa State. Like, they just aren't that type of team. I think I don't even know what their best win is this year. Creighton, maybe. They had a couple games early. I think they beat Kansas early in the year at that Maui Invitational.
When we didn't realize how bad Kansas was.
Yes. So
worst Kansas team not the worst starting five, but just the whole
healthy,
team. Yeah,
they could be okay. But
yeah, no, for sure. I mean, shit, they were pre-ranked the number one team in the country, weren't they?
They might have been.
I think to start they were.
Yeah, I believe it. They
and their starting five. Well, and then they also thought that they were going to have help on the bench, and then the one kid was a rape deal, right, or something?
Yeah, the kid
charged with something
who transferred from Texas from Dallas Kimball. Yeah, that was a loss. And then they also had that All-American freshman who they expected to be a contributor who's been horrific, and they got a transfer from Towson, Nicholas Timberlake, who's been atrocious, who was really good last year. So it's not going well.
Timberlake looks like he should be balling at the YMCA.
He will be. He'll be in the JCC Men's League very soon.
I'll take him on my team up there.
I would too, because he's the type of kid who would knock down shots in that gym. He may not make shit on the floor at Allen Fieldhouse, but he's gonna make a lot of threes on the secondary gym at the JCC in our men's league.
No doubt.
He will be a first-round draft pick for us when we get there. Looking at this region, I think if I was looking at it right here, I would say I kind of agree with you. I think Texas Tech has a shot to actually get to an Elite Eight here. If Marquette isn't healthy, if Kentucky has an off night, I'm actually going to say, man, this is a tough region. I think Duke gets bounced, so I don't have Duke in my Sweet 16. I'm going to have James Madison, obviously, so I won't have all the favorites. I think Houston probably gets to the Elite Eight. They haven't been there in a while. They got to one Final Four a couple years ago, and they had Marcus Sasser. They haven't been there in a minute. They lost early in the tournament last year. They always get caught in an off shooting. I can't pick them to go to the Final Four.
I saw them lose in San Antonio a couple years ago to, I guess, Arizona.
That was the year they got to the Final Four, or no?
No. They beat Arizona. Arizona was favored. Yeah, Houston won that game.
They went to the Final Four.
Yeah.
But I guess this is a real tough. This could be the region that if you pick a favorite, you probably have to pick this region correctly for who comes out of it to win your bracket. If you pick UConn or UNC or Purdue and they end up winning it all, you're going to have to get the Final Four team in this region because a lot of teams could win this region. I would probably Kentucky's the dark horse here, right? Like you said, I think they could win the region. They can get to a championship game. They could also lose to Oakland in the first round. So.
I personally think, and this is giving away, obviously you're going to make your own decisions, but I personally think in this region, you kind of have to take Houston to win the region because there's too much that can happen at the bottom of it.
I agree with that.
Like Texas Tech could end up beating Kentucky, Florida could end up beating Marquette, and then it's a clusterfuck through there. And it's like, look, Houston's probably going to be in the Elite Eight, right? So it's like, to me, I'm thinking, okay, I know they look bad in that one game against Iowa State. Those games kind of happen. I didn't expect it to happen like that. But, yeah, I think for me, if I'm filling out my bracket, I'm going to have Houston out of here just because in the bottom half of that, it's just there's too many Texas Tech, Kentucky, Marquette, Florida. Literally, I feel like any of those teams could come out.
That's a good point.
I know Florida's screwed because, the big man or whatever. And, if I had to pick someone on the bottom of there, I think Kentucky, I'm very tempted to pick Kentucky to come out of this region. I just, like I said, I know the odds of Kentucky playing 3 good games in a row are not very good. It's just not. And you got Cal over there who can't coach a fucking lick. God love him.
He's so bad.
I mean, he's the greatest program, maybe one of the greatest program builders / recruiters of all time, but the guy can't coach a lick. And it's like coming out of a timeout, it's like, just throw it to Dillingham, man. Like, ISO him. I mean, that's all they do, like a read shot, whatever.
Throw it to Reed 40 feet from the basket.
Throw it to Reed, and he'll make the right choice.
Yeah.
Big dog, wrap it up. It's late for him. He was there yesterday or something. Bailey, big dog. Bailey, it's funny. Big dog's looking out for you when he doesn't need you to do anything.
That's right. That's right.
But when you're here hanging out with your buddies producing this, he's
it's wrap it up, get out of there. I don't want
wrap
you here
it up. Tell him Turner put the air condition on 65. No, wait, he's not asking about it, but be like, God, it's fucking cold in here. Turner put the air on 65. He won't let me change it.
That's funny as shit. I would say,
God, dude, turn the fucking air off and tell him to quit drinking my fucking mini Cokes.
I will say this: if Florida was healthy, that sucks. If Florida was healthy, I actually would have probably had them winning this region. No joke. I really probably would have. That's just a big loss. I still think they could get to an Elite Eight looking at this bottom part of the region because they have such good guards. I'm going to go ahead and say you're probably right. I would lean Houston to come out of this region. If Kolick gets back and Houston gets knocked out by somebody, Marquette has a decent shot to go. Marquette is better than Florida, Kentucky, Texas Tech. So those teams are probable teams they'd have to beat to get there. I would lean Marquette if Kolick is back.
Yeah. It's not a bad. I mean, Marquette, like I said, I don't think there's really at the bottom of that bracket. I don't think there's a region. I don't think there's really a wrong answer.
Right.
It's like
any,
that's as far as anything can happen down there, I think. So,
okay, looking at the Midwest, Purdue is going to beat whoever they play, Montana State or Grambling. Then we've got Utah, the Bobcats. Actually, that's actually surprising that they're a 16 seed, I guess.
I actually thought the same thing. I thought that with it being the Big West, they would be or the Big Sky, I thought they would be a 15.
Yeah, and I know Grambling isn't good and they're on one of the worst conferences, but they won their regular season and they won the conference tournament. So kind of a weird little play-in game there, actually. That would be actually a good play-in game. Utah State, TCU, 8-9 here. Big 12 team versus the Mountain West team.
Give me
I'm taking TCU.
Oh, of course. But the problem is Will picked them to win the national championship, he said. Forgot about that.
That's
throwing Will under the bus twice tonight, but yeah, that's his squad. TCU's going to win that game.
You will never convince me on the Mountain West unless they just have a fantastic point guard.
Especially against the Big 12.
Against the Big 12. That's a terrible match. That was the worst matchup Utah State could have seen there.
Yeah.
So I will take TCU easy. I don't think that will be close. I think they're going to get smoked. Gonzaga, McNeese. I know you're probably going to take McNeese. I think a lot of people are. Gonzaga's playing so good right now. I know they lost to St. Mary's in the championship game, but they had won something like 11 in a row before that.
Yeah, I think
that's so tough.
It's a tough matchup. I'm going to take McNeese because I've just been riding with them, and it's March Madness, so you got to have some 12-5. So I'll go McNeese State Cowboys and Will Wade, the criminal.
You know what?
Allegedly.
You know what?
Got a disclaimer that.
I didn't like Gonzaga at the start of the year. I did like what I've seen lately.
Yeah. No, I mean I get it. I mean.
You know what? No, I'm going to agree with you. I'm going to take McNeese here. I think McNeese is going to win that game. I think it's going to be real close. I think the line was like 5.5. Yeah, give me the McNeese State Cowboys there.
The McNeese State Cowboys.
Well, if you sit in your chair in the playroom, they're going to win. Because the Cowboys never lose in that chair.
That's a good point.
We're watching that game.
I forgot about that.
Chair. Kansas taking on Samford. If Kansas is not healthy, I'm taking Samford. If Kansas has all 5 starters, I'm taking Kansas. That's what bottom line this one. I mean, I can't give you a breakdown of this game more than that. Samford's really, really good for a mid-major. If Kansas is healthy, if McCullers and Dickinson play, which I believe they're probably going to, I'm going to take Kansas. I'm never taking Samford against a healthy Kansas team. But if any of those guys don't play, they're so bad off the bench that I legitimately think they would lose to almost any team they would play if they don't have one of their starters.
Yeah, I think, it just depends who's healthy in that one. I'm going to, out of loyalty, I'll take the Kansas Jayhawks.
Okay, fair enough. I'm going to take, in this next one, I know you're going to take Oregon.
The problem with that is, man, picking those two, like Gonzaga and McNeese, it's hard to pick McNeese there because then it's like, anyway, yeah.
That's a weird little bracket
tough,
because those are literal games that a lot of people are going to pick upsets in. And you might be able
I got McNeese going to the Sweet 16. All right.
Dude, honestly, that's very possible. We could have 2 12 seeds in the Sweet 16 if James Madison and McNeese both get there. We have South Carolina, Oregon. I'll tell you this. I'm going to pick South Carolina. I know you're going to take Oregon in this one because you don't like South Carolina.
Fuck the Gamecocks.
South Carolina against bad teams, against teams like Oregon, they win. They don't win against Auburn. They don't win against Tennessee, but against the teams that everybody disrespects them against. And I'll tell you what, I'm going to bet on this one too.
I saw them blow a 15-point lead at home to LSU.
I did too. I had 7.5,
buddy.
So,
yeah.
Okay, that was one game.
You say it is what it is.
You also said the Pac-12 sucks 2 seconds ago, and now you're picking Oregon. So
Pac-12 does suck, but Oregon's going to win.
Yeah. Okay, Creighton, Akron. Akron won on that heartbreaker where the Kent State kid intentionally fouled, not knowing that they were winning the game. And lost.
I do feel bad for that poor kid.
Dude, he looked inconsolable. He looked like he was about to kill himself. Like,
he really did. It was very sad to see. And I would say that, like, for the most part, it looks like his teammates handled it like the best they could. But
the coach did not handle it well. The coach was losing his fucking mind.
He should have fucking called timeout.
His fault.
I mean, it's just call timeout. Like, I get that maybe he didn't want, but the other team had, I think, 2 timeouts still. So like, call the time. It's not like
they didn't want to call timeout. That's why they pushed it.
Yeah, so call timeout there with 4 or whatever. I think it was like 6 to 4 seconds somewhere in there. And then the kid runs up and just grabs him. And the ref, like,
to me, didn't call it.
Yeah, to me, I'm almost like, if I'm the ref there, I'm just like, oh, okay, well, he's a fucking idiot, but I'm not calling that. He ran down there and went like this, and I'm just like, oh god, I'm gonna ruin this. I'm gonna ruin this kid's life.
But he's not ruining the kid's life. The kid ruined his own life.
So you're saying the officials did their job, and you like officials now? Is what you're saying?
I never said that.
Yep. Great job by the officials. And by the way, with this tournament, I cannot wait to see the officials put their best foot forward and call a great tournament. I'm a friend of the officials. This guy is disgusting.
If we rewound 2 years, would you be saying the same thing?
Well, here's the thing.
You're much more impartial now when it's easy to be.
No, like, listen, I mean, if officials really bad, like, me and my brother scream at officials at high school girls' soccer games, okay? All right, you people want to know. All right,
what do you mean?
The wife has to come up and tell my brother to shut the fuck up, and that means me too, because, well, he was acting anyway. Yeah, so I will let officials have it, but it's more like when they're out on a soccer field like 100 yards away where it's like funny, like they can kind of hear you. The ones that like give it to them at basketball games when they're right there, it's like, oh, this is kind of uncomfortable. And it's like, I get that the guy fucking sucks, but he's out there trying to make $40 and go home. Like, the people that are truly convinced, like you, that they have it out for you and they want your JV basketball team to lose, like, this guy has it out for me. And I'm like, no, he doesn't. And
well,
like,
he
just wants to go home.
Oh,
that's like Frank Martin that has like the greatest. And he's like, if you're gonna be the dad, he's like, I go to my kids' YMCA games. Okay, you think I know more than the asshole coaching the YMCA team? He's like, I do. Okay, I go to the game. Do you think I sit behind him and tell him, hey, you need to do this, you need to do that?
That's
he's like,
completely different.
No, but then he gets into the officials, and you have the parents up here acting like little Johnny not getting the foul call with fucking 2 minutes left and the world stacked against him. And he's like, that guy's out there to make $40 so he can get some fucking groceries. And I'm like,
YMCA, totally different than high school. All right. If you're going to be a high school official, Fucking do your job, all right? Know what you're fucking doing.
They all suck. That's what makes high school sports magical.
Well, college
bad officials
just as bad almost.
Yeah, and they make a lot of fucking money too.
They make a lot of money to be fucking horrible. I'll tell you that. They are real bad. Moving on to the rest of this little bracket. Creighton taking on Akron. Yep. That's the one we're talking about. I like Creighton. I don't think that's going to be close. Creighton has a chance to make a run here.
Creighton's going to beat Akron by 25.
Texas, Colorado State. I already told you if Colorado State wins that game, there's a good chance I take Colorado State over my Longhorns.
No, you're not. Give me the Longhorns.
I'm a big Colorado State guy, okay?
You are, but you're not going to. I've heard this a million times. I might pick against Texas, and then in his bracket, he'll have Texas because he can't fathom the pick against Texas. When in reality, you would be pissed. You would just be pissed regardless anyway, so it doesn't really matter. You might as well just fucking pick Texas.
Well, and but you have to also agree with this. Like this year and most years when Texas is in the tournament, if they're not good, I'm not freaking out that they lose. Like, I want them to win. Last year was different because they legitimately should have been in the Final Four and had a chance to win a national title.
Also, you heard it here first. Rodney Terry's a hell of a ball coach.
Get the fuck out of here. Go fuck yourself.
Hell of a ball coach.
You're just trying to needle me at this point.
He gets the troops going. He gets
awful.
He gets the people going.
Yeah, okay.
Tennessee by 30.
Yeah, Tennessee's not losing.
Dalton Connect's going to score 35.
Who comes out of the region?
My Tennessee Volunteers.
Really?
Why not?
Where does Purdue get knocked out? Do they get to the Elite Eight and lose to Tennessee?
I don't know. I don't know. But first of all, watching Zach Edey play basketball is just fucking terrible. So no one likes watching that big motherfucker play and grab. Anyway, he's huge. Whatever. It's boring to watch. I honestly think Creighton or Tennessee is going to come out. Creighton could end up beating Tennessee.
I was going to say
Creighton's a good basketball team. Creighton could beat Tennessee. I'm hoping that if I take Tennessee, they can get through that game.
We might have a very similar bracket. I like Tennessee.
I don't think Purdue's. I don't think they got it. I have friends that think that it's going to be the repeat of Virginia, where they end up winning it after getting bounced in the first round. And in theory, they're a good basketball team. I just don't think they're going to do it.
I don't think so either. I think Purdue gets bounced. Honestly, it would not shock me if they lost to TCU in the second round. It wouldn't shock me if Gonzaga got through McNeese and got there. They could take them out. There's a lot of ways Purdue goes down here.
McNeese could take them out. Show some respect.
Let's not go that far. Right?
Show some respect. They lost to fucking Fairleigh Dickinson last year. Okay.
That was the worst loss in the history of basketball. I think it was worse than the Virginia one because at least UMBC had a winning record on the year. I know Virginia got killed and Purdue lost by 4, but okay. I think Creighton's the dark horse to come out of this region. I will say, and you're gonna hate this. Let's say for sake of argument, somehow Tennessee gets upset before the Sweet 16. Like somehow Texas or Colorado State beats them. In that case, there is a chance that South Carolina could get to the Final Four. I know you hate that. Dude, listen. I'm not going to have them going past
Thank
the
God
round.
you got this take on camera.
Can I finish? Can I finish?
Go ahead.
I will not have them going past the second round. I'm going to have them beating Oregon, and I'm going to have them losing to Creighton. I'm going to tell you this right now. There is a weird team every year that gets to a Final Four or to an Elite Eight or, even the national title, San Diego State last year. And every time it happens, it's a team like this. San Diego State did it last year with a good defense and no offense. Same exact thing happened when South Carolina went like 8 years ago with your boy Frank Martin, talking about the YMCA officials. They went to the Final Four. They didn't have a lick of offense.
Love Frank. I don't necessarily understand the Mr. Clean look with the shaved head these days.
I don't know what that was.
But he was wearing a mighty fine turtleneck the other day against when his UMass Minutemen beat.
They beat somebody?
Somebody. Yeah.
They lost to VCU in the tournament.
Yeah, they beat someone at senior. I forget who it was. We were watching the end of it.
All right, let's run through the West real quick so we get done with this. North Carolina is going to win the first game against Howard or Wagner. Mississippi State, Michigan State. Battle of wills, physical battle. Michigan State, 14 losses, gets in the tournament without having to play in the last 4 in somehow. Thank you to Tom Izzo. That's the only reason that they are in this 9 spot and not a play-in game as a 10. I like Mississippi State in this one. Josh Hubbard, the guard for Mississippi State, is a freshman. He's fantastic. He gives them a scoring option that they haven't had in years past, and they're better defensively than Michigan State. But Izzo and March, Izzo and March could go to an Elite Eight like he always does. They did it last year as a 7 seed, beat Marquette. Got to the Elite Eight and damn near won in the Elite Eight against Kansas State. So I'll take Mississippi State, but it's going to be a tight one.
I've been a noted Mississippi State hater all year, and I think they're actually – anyway, I'll take Michigan State. Okay. Just give me Izzo. I don't know.
You always like Michigan.
They're he's well, I got people asking for the bracket info. Let me know.
I'll get it in a second.
Golly, that was hilarious that he did the Tyrone Bigham's like with the scratching himself.
He's like, give me the bracket. Give me the bracket. Yeah. I'm like, Will, the bracket hasn't even been released yet. About?
God, Will's got 3 mentions so far this podcast. He's a celebrity.
Yeah, it is a celebrity. I'm going to beat you to the punch on the next one. I'm taking Grand Canyon to beat St. Mary's. 100%. That's my pick right there.
You know what's weird? I think that could definitely happen. I think if St. Mary's wins that game, I think they beat the winner of Alabama-Charleston.
Probably.
And then I, honest to God, think they could potentially beat North Carolina. I think it's a bad matchup because Baycott's so big. I just don't think North Carolina's that great. So,
I don't either at all.
In North Carolina, like you said, Izzo up there, Mississippi State, I don't see them losing that game. But I don't know. You know what? I'm gonna go in that one. I'm gonna go St. Mary's. I do think Grand Canyon's good. They could definitely win the game.
On their team,
I think whoever wins the St. Mary's Grand Canyon game will beat Alabama or Charleston.
Do you think Alabama wins?
They've been so bad lately.
They've been so bad.
I think they're probably good enough to beat Charleston. I don't think Charleston was better last year.
Yeah, they were much better last year. They have 31 wins last year. They have 27 this year. I
kind of want to pick against them because it's just Sears on Alabama. If he has a bad game, then it's like.
I would love to pick Charleston here. I just don't know. I have so many upsets I've already picked. I don't know if I want to take this.
Yeah, I'll probably take Bama here. I think whoever wins that game loses to St. Mary's or Grand Canyon next round. I am taking St. Mary's to beat Grand Canyon, but
okay. So you're taking St. Mary's and you're taking Alabama.
Yeah.
Okay. I'll take Alabama. I picked Grand Canyon. I'll take Alabama to beat Charleston. I don't. That could go either way. I'll lean Alabama. I'm going to take New Mexico, which I believe you are too, to beat Clemson.
Yep.
The Lobos are playing their best basketball of the year. I'm hoping they didn't get too high off this win and then have a letdown here in this spot because Clemson isn't bad, but they don't wow you in any way. And I think New Mexico playing at their best, I'm not exaggerating. They could win this region if they're playing good basketball. They have 3 legitimate guards. Toppin is an absolute monster. They have a couple guys off the bench who can score it. I'm not saying that's going to happen, but Arizona's been traditionally bad in the tournament. I'm not high on North Carolina. Baylor is probably the worst 3 seed of all the 3 seeds. So I really think that New Mexico, I very well, you know what, I'll take it back. I will have New Mexico in my Sweet 16. 100%.
Oh, I'm having them in my Sweet 16 for sure.
I will 100%.
I'm going to have them in my Elite 8. One up, yeah.
Arizona?
Yep.
I could see that.
Give me House and Mashburn versus the world and Toppin down low.
I can see that.
If they can figure out a way to get Toppin involved, I mean, I don't know. I just think that matchup with Baylor, too, is like Mashburn and House I like, and then Toppin I like better than Baylor's big.
Baylor's terrible defensively.
Yeah, I don't know. And, we say all this, and Clemson will probably beat them by 1 in the first round.
Probably, but I think Richard Pitino showed me a lot in that tournament. He made some really good game plans for each team they played. There was a different game plan, and I think he'll have a good set of parameters to play Clemson, specifically how they struggle, and I think they're gonna do the same thing to Baylor. I think we both like Baylor to beat Colgate. Colgate's weird. They were a super high scoring team, and now they're not anymore. They're like a defensive team.
New Mexico served by 2.5 already. Over
yeah,
Clemson.
I mean that's
opened at 1. It's now 2.5.
It opened 1.
1.5.
I wish I would have got it then. I'm gonna take them probably on a cheap money line if I can find it. Both of us are going to pick Baylor, I'm assuming, right?
Yeah, I'll take Baylor.
And then Nevada, Dayton. I'll take Dayton, and I don't like Dayton. I think Dayton sucks, but I think Nevada sucks worse. This is 2 of my least favorite teams in the tournament. I'll take Dayton to win. It'll be a tight one.
I'll take Nevada. Why not?
I'm going to fade the Mountain West in every pick.
It's a coin toss. What is it? Dayton by 2?
I'm fading the Mountain West.
I was going to guess Dayton by 2, and the line's actually Nevada by 1.5.
I'm actually shocked Dayton's an underdog there.
Yeah. I mean, I just don't, like you said, I don't think Dayton's great. I think Nevada wins that.
Arizona, we're both
Long
taking.
Beach State
Is that
with
your
the
pick?
fired coach.
Are you picking them?
No.
Oh. They lost last year as a 2 seed. Arizona did. Okay.
Long Beach State's not good.
Who comes out of this region?
Oh, I want to pick New Mexico.
Don't do
bad.
it. I'll beat you to it. I'm taking New Mexico to come out of this region.
Oh, you're a cheater. You said they were going to Sweet 16. I said Elite 8.
And then I said Final Four.
You know who's coming out of this region? Fuck you in Grand Canyon. St. Mary's is coming out of this fucking region this year.
This is a classic one. I like this. We got an 11.
Gales versus Lobos in the Elite Eight.
Oh,
but the funny thing is, I would actually probably take I want New Mexico to win.
Here you go. Here's a second dinner bet. You want to take it? I'll take New Mexico. You got St. Mary's. If either one gets to a Final Four, that's a dinner. Okay. If they don't, if neither one goes.
Well, that's fine. I hope New Mexico goes because that would be more fun for me anyway.
There you go.
No, but then I don't want to root against the Lobos. So
you don't have to root against the Lobos.
We'll do another one. We can have another one.
Oh, God.
We'll find other teams. But I want to root for the Lobos.
You're a puss.
No, I'm not. I just like the Lobos.
All right.
Let's not forget who picked the Lobos to win the Mountain West tournament.
I will give you that. Hold on. We gave out two best bets on the show. I gave out UConn to win the Big East. I said it was my lock. And then you gave out New Mexico to win the Mountain West, which was like plus 800, and they won. So if you followed our picks on that, you made a lot of money, so you're welcome. Real quick, before we get out of here, I'm going to talk about our bracket challenge in a second, but I got to pull it up real quick, our game for who we have.
Oh, yeah, we got to change.
Right, so I've got to pull this up real quick.
All right, so you get first option to change, so you go ahead.
And I'm going to switch my mid-major first because let's see, I'm pull up 23. So I switched, let's see, I forget because this is an older one. Did I have I kept Iowa State or did I switch them?
You switched them.
Who did I switch to? North Carolina.
Yeah.
I'm going to switch. Okay, well, I'll wait there because you're not going to switch anybody anyway. So I'm going to switch Indiana State and I will take We said we can't do Mountain West there, right? Yeah, it has to be outside the Mountain West.
Yeah.
No. Give me Grand Canyon, and if you want Drake, you can have him.
Yeah, I'll take. Well, let me think about this.
I think you.
I will take.
Who else? You could take Morehead State, but that's a bad matchup. You could take. I'm trying to look who else. You already have McNeese. You could take Samford, knowing that one of those teams probably is going to win, but that would be dangerous because only one can go to the Sweet 16. You could take, pretty much that's it, Charleston. I think you have to take Drake. Plus, you're getting a 10 seed.
Yeah, I'll take Drake.
Yeah. Okay, so you have Drake and McNeese State. I have Grand Canyon, James Madison. I have, for my other teams, I have Nebraska, Illinois, and Baylor.
Ooh, technically you broke a rule there, but
what did
okay.
I do?
You have two from the same conference.
Didn't I switch?
You can keep Nebraska.
I switched Illinois, didn't I? That's what it was.
Oh yeah, you switched Illinois.
I switched. I kept Florida and switched Illinois. I forget what I did.
No, you went from Illinois to Florida, I think, and you haven't switched back.
That's
you were
right.
cursing
I have
about
Marquette.
Florida. Yeah.
I have Marquette,
Florida,
Baylor, and Nebraska is who I have.
Yeah,
that's who I have. I have Marquette, Baylor, and Nebraska. So I'm going to change. I'm going to take. Let's see here. If you have a change you want to make, tell me while I'm going through this.
Who are mine? Kentucky.
You have Kentucky, Gonzaga, and Creighton.
I'm going to switch off Gonzaga and go to St. Mary's. I'll square up against your Grand Canyon in the first round.
I'm going to switch Nebraska, and I'm going to take New Mexico so that I can root for my Lobos. I'm going to keep Illinois. Oh, no, wait. I'm going to switch. So I'm going to go. Here's what I'm going to take. I'm going to go Illinois, New Mexico, Marquette.
And I have Kentucky, Creighton, Kansas. The only thing is, I'm sorry, Kentucky, St. Mary's, Creighton now. Yep.
And now you're good because you're on different regions. And then the other thing, you're not going to switch Tennessee or UConn, are you?
No.
Okay, I'm going to switch and go from North Carolina back to Iowa State.
Wow, wasn't a believer. Had to see him play for a while. Couldn't stick with his team.
See him get their offense together. Okay, we got that locked. Okay, I'm going to say this.
And then we'll post our brackets too, right?
So here's what we're going to do. We're going to post our brackets. I'm going to have it. I'll put all the links and everything in the description in case you missed this. I'll try to throw this promo at the very beginning of the episode as well so that it goes out there. But there's going to be a free bracket group and a paid bracket group for anyone who wants to join. So for the free bracket group, I'll put the link in the description. It's a public group. You can join in there and we'll have our producer Bailey, Uncle T, me and Big Dog, all of our brackets will be in there. And if you join that bracket, you fill out a bracket. If you beat all 4 of us, you get a college basketball jersey of your choosing. That'll be your prize. So anybody who beats all 4 of our brackets will get that. So that's number 1. So we want you to join that bracket challenge, be a part of it. It's I believe Slobberknocker Sports is the group name, so you can search it if you want, but I'll put the link in the description as well. Also, we have a paid bracket challenge. If you want to join that, it's a $50 entry. It's called Dylan's Bracket Challenge 2024. I'll put the link in the description for that as well. We're also going to update, and I'll put it on my website so you can check there as well. So any way you want to join, if you want to be in the group for money where you can win prizes, for all you peasants who can't afford $50, you're welcome to join the free bracket challenge and try and win a free jersey, or you can join them both if you want to be a part of both.
Yeah, we'll see how many brackets Big Dog submits.
Yeah, I made it one bracket maximum.
He's got grand plans to, him and Bailey are fucking scheming hard.
He's going to have 15 different ESPN accounts joining in there. So he's got all different bracket champions.
Difference in it, yeah.
That's right. He doesn't realize that there's like 200 million different possibilities, so it's not going to help him. Now, that's all in the description below, so if you want to join, please go ahead and do that. Also, make sure to check out my website for college basketball picks. I'll have some free NCAA March Madness picks, www.dylanleaguesports.com. I'll have that up soon. I'll break down the regions there, but we kind of gave you all of the stuff that we first glanced the bracket and talked about all of the things. We got a nice little show for you guys here for the day. I'm going to get this out quickly so it'll be ready to go. But again, join our bracket pool for some prizes and to win some money. We got the first play-in game starting on Tuesday and Wednesday. Have 2 games each night, and then Thursday it all kicks off. The best 4 days of the year in sports, at least for me, in my opinion. Thursday, Friday, we got 16 games each day, and then we got 8 each day on Saturday and Sunday. Going to be a really, really fun week. Thank you guys for tuning into this show. I think that's it, right? We got anything else to do? Am I missing anything? Anything else I need to mention, Bailey, or am I good?
Oh, got a text message from Big Dog.
What did it say?
I don't know. It's probably about the air conditioning. It's night time. Time to go bye-bye.
Time to go bye-bye. Yeah, that man will be
up
till 3
this
in the
air
morning.
Conditioning is mighty fine.
Yeah.
65 degrees. Perfect.
All right. We good? Okay, so again, join our bracket. Thanks for tuning in to the March Madness edition of the podcast. And we will be back next week. We are going to get a set date now. We're either going to do Mondays or Wednesdays or whatever day. So for the rest of the year, assuming Big Dog doesn't re-hijack the studio, which could happen at any time, in any place, we will be shooting consistently on the same time. But we appreciate you guys joining in. Make sure to subscribe, like this video, comment on the video. If you comment on the video this episode, I will also I'll give you 2 jerseys if you beat us in the bracket challenge and you comment on the video. But you got to comment because we need some comments to get in the algorithm and get more people watching this. So thank you guys. Have a great week. Enjoy the NCAA tournament first round. We'll be back on Monday or Tuesday to break down everything from the first 2 rounds of the tournament. Until then, we'll catch you next time.
Big Dog's blowing me up.